And she talked to me all night. She gave me your business card. And then she reached underneath the table where we were hiding the Eclipse Award because I'd gone off to congratulate a few people. And she walked out with it. And security tried to stop her. And she said, I'm a friend of Barbara's and I'm taking this award to her.
Thanks so much for tuning in to another episode of the Off the Track Podcast, a daily racing forum interview series where we go beyond the past performances and the handicapping. This week, we got the chance to talk with one of the greatest equine photographers of all time, Barbara D. Livingston. You've seen so much of her work through the years, but have you ever really heard Barbara's story and how she got into horse racing? She talks about growing up as a kid and all the great horses she got to see in the area where she was living up in the New York area. She talks about, college and some of the schooling that she had. And she was always trying to take pictures of horses while she was getting her education and then moving on and becoming one of the most well-known equine photographers. Her schedule, how she moves from track to track, the different great horses that she's photographed through the years. It was a fantastic chat with Barbara Livingston. All the Eclipse Awards, so many accolades for one of the great equine photographers. I'm very excited for this chat. I've had the chance to talk with Barbara just a few times in passing here and there, but never really sat down and had a conversation with the GOAT when it comes to equine photography, the greatest of all time. We are very lucky to have her as our chief daily racing form photographer, Barbara Livingston. Barbara, thank you so much for joining us. How's everything going on your end?
Gino, all is going well after hearing that. And you're not biased at all. So that's nice.
Not at all. So how long have you been taking pictures now? When do you remember some of the first photos you took of horses, really, when we're going to be spending a lot of time on that?
And I don't really remember it because I don't have a great memory. But by 1971, I was 10. And so obviously I'm not hiding my age. And my family took us to the track. And I'd already been riding polo ponies and stuff near my house. But it was the first time I photographing them. But it was the first time I photographed horses at the racetrack with 1971. And so a few years.
Just a couple. And you just finished another meet at Saratoga. What was it like for you getting to see a horse like Sovereignty, who was so impressive? And I'm kind of curious, how long have you been watching him? Did you see him last year a little bit, or how have you kind of seen him develop?
We saw him. And we were aware that he existed, but we didn't really know anything more than that. We weren't really paying attention to that, of course. I like to pretend that we're soothsayers or whatever. We're not. So we certainly were, and I follow Belmont's horses, of course. But I wasn't really aware of him until he was doing well early this winter in Florida. And the race that I went to, which I believe was the Holy Bull, when I went to the Florida Derby, he was favored by then. And he didn't win that day. Tapan Street did. But pretty happy that he came back and has been doing remarkably, because I'm such a Belmont supporter. And a horse like that, he looks like something in a children's book. I mean, he doesn't look real when he's running. He's like an engine. He just goes.
And you are someone who knows. You've seen many great horses through the years, and we're going to get into a few of them. But I'm curious, when you're taking pictures and photos on a big day, like some of the days that you were just dealing with taking pictures of Sovereignty, like Jim Dandy, Belmont Stakes days, those days. Are those days more difficult for you as a photographer? Just getting access, right? Getting into some of your nooks and your crannies and the places you like to go?
Yeah, it gets much tougher, actually. And part of the reason it gets so much tougher is that DRF puts up stories. Dave Grenig, Mike Welch, or others are writing the stories between each stakes race. So that being said, within 15 minutes of the race finishing, I have to send in something. And I'd like to send in something from our inside shooter, Deb Roma, or Justin Lane, or whoever else is helping us at the time, as well as a remote or two. So I'm trying to download maybe 4 or 5 cards between each race, sending in maybe 5 photos between each race, and getting back out there before the post parade, or even before they happen to come out to the track, so I can catch them in the paddock if possible. And so it's like a speed editing course.
And that's what I was going to say. I don't think maybe everybody understands what a crazy Saturday might be like for you. And like all the races, you have that quick turnaround in between. Kind of take us through a day where maybe you're out there in the morning. What time does the alarm set? You're shooting some workouts in the morning, and then you've got a full day at the track.
Yeah, well, and of course, that's because the people at the track also have that. And they make fun of me when I'm out there like Monday and Tuesday mornings, like exercise riders, like, why are you here? I'm
It's
like,
your day off.
because you're here. Because you're here. If you go away, I'll go away. So early in the meet, the track opens at 5:30. So I'm certainly there at 5:30. We're pretty grateful when it changes to like 6:10, 6:15. So there's no reason to be there before 6 a.m. And then we have turf days. If like we're certainly shoot workouts all morning till about 9:30, 9:45. But then they have turf works out for 10 to 11. So we stay those days. And those days I just wear my afternoon clothes and just drive across the street and stay all day. It's easier.
So where is home base for you? Are you based in New York and that's where you are year round?
I'm based in New York. I travel. I'm based in Saratoga. I grew up near here, but I travel maybe 200 days or so of the year because horses don't stay here. I mean, Sovereignty's here right now. He's down the street, but I can get him working, but I need to actually get horses in action. So like I go to Parks in a week and a half, and I go to Finger Lakes 2 days after that, and go to Kentucky to get some farm stuff on the way to driving out to the Breeders' Cup in California. So I'm away most of the year. But that's just because the horses don't stay here. If they stayed here, I'd stay here.
Yeah. We see you all over the place. Derby week, you'll be there for the week or two leading up. Preakness, you'll be there. And Belmont all over. And I saw a quote. I was reading a previous interview from you. And I think you had said something along the lines of, I'm not sure if this is a passion or an obsession, or maybe a little bit of both. And when you kind of go through your schedule, it is, right? Because when you're working with horses, these aren't the types of jobs that people kind of can go do the 9 to 5, clock in, clock out. You really love the horses and love that environment. Otherwise, you wouldn't be doing it.
Absolutely true. And I love the people that share that love. And like I joke, my living is spent photographing what other people do for a living.
Yeah.
That's sort of weird. But I
Taking
love what
pictures
these
of
other
people doing things, right?
yeah, actually living a life, right? But that being said, I love the people involved. Like I was thinking last year, when I drove to Del Mar from Saratoga, I stopped at Remington, my first trip there. The people were amazing. And there are a bunch of people that came from New York, like Georgie Martens and Kelly O'Hara. And you have a family wherever you go. When I go to Finger Lakes, it'll be a family of people, Parks. And it just never gets old. That never gets old. It's always a thing of wonder to me that I'm so happy to see so many people and so many horses, whatever level they're racing at.
Well, I know you're called an equine photographer, but I think sometimes you should be called an extreme equine photographer, because I've heard some stories, and I only saw this briefly, but when we were at the Preakness this year at Pimlico, all of a sudden this crazy storm comes in. Everybody gets sent inside. There's this shelter in place. Everybody's kind of nervous and hiding, but you're trying to get up on the roof, and like you're looking for places to go find the lightning so you can shoot it. You kind of are almost a thrill seeker in that sense. I was watching Twisters.
Yes.
It reminds me of you. Like you're following the tornado, trying to get the best look of it. Tell us do you have any funny stories, or is there something that you any kind of shots that you've had with weather? Because you always great rainbow shots, and it seems like you just you're one at peace with Mother Nature, even when it's crazy.
Love it. I love Mother Nature. And if that's what gets me in the end, I had a great time. I hope I had a few minutes of photographing it first, but at least I would have had a great time. Yeah, I mean, I love lightning especially, but I'll take any sort of weather I can get, and I will try to find a spot where I can get a background. Like one evening, it was over Gopher Juan's grave, lightning going down behind that, and that was remarkable to me. Yeah, one night we were coming home from a memorial service, and it was like 9 at night, and we were all dressed really well, but there was a lightning storm. So I came into Saratoga Racetrack in October, November. I'm not sure quite when, but that gate was open, as sometimes is. And I ran up to the roof in my dress with the makeup and everything, and I got a great shot of the lightning. And it was well worth doing. And a security guard came along, and he saw what I did, and he said, I decided to wait downstairs till you were done. But again, we have liability releases too. So if we're exceptionally stupid, it's our fault, and we appreciate that. We don't pretend it's not.
And that I was going to ask too, have you ever had any injuries? Because you're moving around, you're getting up and down off the ground. There's horses around you. You're in tight places. Have you had any close calls or any times where you hurt yourself, like at work?
I fall down a lot, but it's because I'm carrying like 40 or 50 pounds of cameras. and I get
Tilts you
moving
over.
and we don't want to run because you don't run around horses, obviously. So instead, you get to a really fast, shuffly walk, and then suddenly there'll be something you didn't think about, like a speed bump, and you're just walking over the speed bump, and suddenly your cameras are clattering. My friend Susie Rasher, an excellent photographer, she says I don't have very good self-preservation skills. So I do have my will and everything. Everything's ready. Like I'm aware that I'm stupid on occasion, but it's worth it. Everything's magical.
To get those shots sometimes, right? It is. It absolutely is. And I
Yes.
hadn't realized that you actually have some vision issues for someone who is looking through the lens of a camera and has given us so many incredible shots through the years. But you actually have a special lens, so you don't have to even wear glasses while you're working. Is that true? Talk to us a little bit about that.
Yeah, I have terrible vision, and from the age of 2, wore glasses, and I've had a couple of surgeries. And like for instance, I can't see the screen really. That I know you're on that side of it, and I'm probably vice versa for people watching. But I know you're there, and I can tell there's a DRF shirt, and I love that. But otherwise, I can't make out your features or anything. But for my camera, you could buy things called diopters, and they're just little connectors. You put them on the back of your camera. And for instance, I have a +3 diopter. My camera automatically goes to +1, so that takes me up to +4. So it'd be like if you're using binoculars and everybody has a different measurement, that like the correct diopter. Most people are like +1, like readers, cheaters. Mine is strong enough that you really can't buy them without a prescription in the store, like glasses. But yeah, so they sell little diopters for like 30, $40. You plop them on the back of your camera. Because I can't wear glasses that would be for close without then getting dizzy if I move the camera away. So that's why I can't just wear glasses around. So yeah, I use a diopter. It's +4. It's great. And I can pretty much see everything.
Somebody, one of our producers, Jody, said, if you see her at the track and she doesn't know who you are, don't think that she's being rude sometimes. She may not have noticed who you were unless she was looking through the camera.
Yes.
So.
Yes, 100% true. And I have some girlfriends that will yell over and they'll go like, hey, Barbara, it's Sarah. I'm like, thank you. Or Teresa or whatever. And they just sort of yell their name to me because they appreciate, I know shapes pretty well. And if people always wear the same type of clothes.
Oh, that's great. That's so great. And it's such a funny bit of info for someone who gives us so many shots, but has to have a little bit of help to actually see through the lens and get those great shots. Now, how does this all start for you? Let's kind of go back to the beginning. Is our mom and dad interested in photography or horse racing, or is this just a bug that you catch on your own?
Yeah, my parents, my father was a scientist. My mother was a nursing instructor. Neither one was particularly interested in horses, but down the street from us, there was a gentleman named Paul Kant, and he had a polo pony field, and he let young women, girls, whatever, be dumb enough to get on his horses and ride them all over the neighborhood, do whatever we wanted. So by the time I was 10, I was going to his farm and just riding horses everywhere, and I brought a little Instamatic along. And that's when I started shooting. It was probably 9 or 10. And I just found it absolutely fascinating, as people do. Like more people do it now than did back then. But then I went to the track and I photographed it there as well. And I thought, this is really neat because here I still have Forego and Secretariat and Ruffian. And Ruffian was the one, I photographed her winning the spin away. 12 3/4 lengths, I think it was. I haven't looked it up in a long time. Stakes record time, crushed the horse they thought might give her competition in Laughing Bridge. And I photographed it, and she was there with me, and she stayed with me on my walls. And the next year, that became even more important to me, that I still had Ruffian in a way, and I still had that moment and that day where she cantered away without the lead pony because she didn't need that. Like, ooh, what does a girl like more than a black filly, tall, spindly, tough, named Ruffian? And she stayed with me forever, and I still have those pictures still framed the way they were back then.
It almost seemed like it was just perfect timing for you at that age, getting into it. And just the horses you were talking about, right? In the 70s alone, Secretariat, Seattle Slew, Affirmed, Alidar, Ruffian, Forego, Spectacular Bid, all in your area, like where you could go see them.
Yeah, the crazy part, I always missed Spectacular Bid. He was supposed to come here and then he didn't for some reason. So I didn't see him till he went to stud, even though the headlines for a while were like, gonna come to Saratoga. And we were all so excited. But I certainly saw all the others, like Secretariat, before he would work out. The newspaper would have a little picture that goes, Secretariat will work tomorrow at 7:15 at the track. So, and I remember reading the paper, sitting next to my mom, who would drive me up there very dutifully, my mom or dad, depending on who was the unlucky one, would take me the 25, 30 minutes to get to the track and to be with me during the race day and let me use their camera because they had a better camera than I did. And they never told me. After my mom died, I found a letter that she had written someone, and they'd given it back to her because it was funny. And they'd circled the part where she said, "Great, Barbara has changed her major at Syracuse to photography. Do you really need to get a degree to take pictures?" And it was so great. And I mean, it also cost them like $60,000. So there's that. But it was just so funny to think that even my parents probably didn't really believe in me, but they never let me know they didn't believe in me.
And then you get to Syracuse, as you pointed out, and that's where you study experimental photography. You have a BA there. I had done some research and heard some of your college professors were quite taken with you always focusing in on horses, right? And that was like some of your projects, which is no surprise. But what was that experience like at Syracuse studying photography in college?
Yeah, the problem was it was experimental, well, photography already, but experimental photography were people that were often really artsy and very technically, much more coordinated than I was. And I didn't even care to learn all the things about my camera to make it the best. I try to now because I just think it helps. But yeah, it was pretty fascinating. About 3 years ago, a college professor from Syracuse sent me an email in which he said he uses me as an example of what he did wrong. Wow. And that he should have said, stick with it. But instead he thought my single focus was a negative. And he kept telling me to expand what I was doing. And I just couldn't. Like, it would just be a strange, like you'd get some sort of assignment, like photograph a graveyard. So I'd go do Man o' Wars in Kentucky, right? Obviously I'm going to do that. And then it said, like, do different ethnic things. So I went to the backstretch and I got, people cooking dinners on the backstretch, like by their dorm rooms and stuff. And I couldn't help it. Like,
that was what you knew, right? That was like what you know. And that's like the world to you. Yeah.
Yeah. And I didn't want to, and other people were doing like artsy nudes and all sorts of crazy things. And I just didn't, I just didn't care to do them. And it was really amazing to get a note from him saying that he now tells people to do what they love.
Come full circle, right? That's so great.
Wild. It was wild.
Who were, and you mentioned a teacher here, were there any other people early in your career, in your life, that were mentors to you, or that you kind of looked at and you emulated them, or you sort of learned things about them? I read a little bit about, and you get into confirmation photography, like after, once you get into horse racing, but are there any people that you can think of that were, helpful to you early on, or maybe mentors that you looked up to?
It's funny, Tony Leonard, I looked up to his work the most, and he was the leading conformation photographer, and he did great stallion work. And when he went to the track, which he didn't always do, he did remarkable work there too. But I can't really say he was a mentor because he knew that he was so great that if you spent time with him, he just sort of said like, I'm pretty great. And he was. So it's not like but he did actually call me once and ask me, he said, what kind of camera are you using at the early days of autofocus? And I was using Canon, and he was using Nikon, and he switched to Canon. And how amazing is that? And every time I'd see him, I'm like, oh, I feel so proud.
Yeah.
But yeah, for that, basically, I grew up looking at newspapers and books because there were a lot of books then for I'll say little girls, but for young people that had photos of racehorses, and I would cut them all out, like C.C. Cook and Skeets Metters and Alan Brewers, and they were top photographers and also writers in a couple of cases. And I would just put those pictures on the wall with tape or, thumbtack in the thumbtack thing. And they just motivated me because they were so beautiful. And I wanted to be like the person that photographed Count Fleet being posed with John Longden up. I wanted to be like that. I wanted to do the next, carry that on. So it's sort of just all those photographers, shake them all up. And I just wanted to continue what they were all doing.
You take a little piece of everyone, right? And you kind of make your own, right?
Yes. Yeah. They were all a little bit different. Yes. None was like exactly what I wanted to be, but my brain flits all over too. And it's not good. So I have to also keep myself going, because then I want to write a story about a horse. I want to write a book about whatever. And I'm not sure they might have all been more singular purpose in that regard. They might have been luckier.
So as you're getting involved at the track and you're starting taking pictures there, were there any barns or any people like at the track early on that were helpful to you, maybe gave you some access or made things a little easier for you when you were young and trying to get your foot in the door?
I'm so shy that I would never even,
Right?
I'm
Yeah.
still shy. Like,
Yeah.
I still don't, I go to the barns because I have to, and I want to record these horses, but I also appreciate these people are working really hard. And, we're wandering it at 8:30 in the morning. It's not really, hey, could I please see whoever? But yeah, the barn where the people were all really kind was Woody Stevens' barn.
Awesome.
And this was like the mid 80s. It was Saratoga because I couldn't drive anywhere yet. But the people that took care of mid 80s to late 80s, like 49er, for instance, Creme Fraiche, all those horses, Latka. There were so many good ones at the time. And they were all very inviting. Like I would go over there really timidly and they would say, hey, want to get your picture taken with Conquistador Cielo? Or I'm like, yes, I would. Thank you. So
Awesome.
and so I never felt, and of course, Woody would not miss the opportunity if he had it to say, like, look at my watch with the Belmont winners, or like he had some neat thing, and he always very inviting. And talking to a legend like that, I still remember that. I won't forget that.
Do you remember anything early on in your career as being like a big break, like a shot that was good, that may have kind of taken you to the next level, or something that sort of made people look at you and go, oh yeah, now I know who she is. She's a photographer. Like, was there something that made you feel like you're kind of making it now out on the backside or out at the track?
No.
Just
No, it took us
years
seriously.
and years of hard work, right? Like overall?
It took so much hard work because back then you didn't stick your pictures on the internet and get instant, thumbs ups.
Yep.
So what you did was you sent them into the publications. You sent them into Blood Horse, or back then you also had Thoroughbred Times that I would send pictures to. And then you would get a credit line that was 8 points, tiny little credit sideways on a picture. And it did not lend really well to getting a name seen. And probably 10 or 15 years in, and I might have had 20 or 25 magazine covers, and still I'm pretty sure nobody knew who I was, which was okay. But the internet has certainly changed that for everybody. We used to actually have to, I would tell Thoroughbred Times ahead of time, I'll go to the Jockey Club Gold Cup 1986, or they're like, got it, send us the pictures. So we would go down, shoot the race on film, of course, go to a photo lab and tell them to stay open for us, whether or not they wanted to. We had to pay them extra to do that. And then you hope the photo lab wasn't down for the night, because then I'd go to Roosevelt Field near Belmont, and then I'd have to go on to the next one if that one wasn't operational. And then you'd make 4x6 prints of all of them. You'd mark the back of them. You'd put them in an envelope, and you'd go to LaGuardia, where they had Delta Dash, which was a Delta airline overnight delivery. So, and of course we had to pay for that, because Thoroughbred Times was happy to get the pictures, but they weren't going to put the money into that. And so that was what was involved. Then I drive back up to Saratoga and get here maybe 2 or 3 in the morning after having to get into Delta Dash, wait in line. And that's how you would get pictures. And then someone on their end in Kentucky would go pick them up at the airport on Sunday to go to press Sunday or Monday.
Unbelievable process that a lot different nowadays, and a lot easier nowadays when you press a couple buttons and just send it.
It was sort of crazy back then to think of the work put into it. And of course, all the publications were like, don't worry, we'll keep using you even when we go digital. We're like, will you though?
Yeah. Well, then life starts to get a little different for you, because you start winning the big awards. In 1992, we get the Eclipse Award, which is the recognition at the highest level for what you do, being an equine photographer. What do you remember about that first photo that you won? I think it was for the Blood Horse, right back in 1992. Yeah. What was that picture of, and what do you remember about that photo?
It was a lovely filly named Turn Back the Alarm, and she was a top filly, won several grade ones. I think Florida bred, probably a Darn That Alarm. She was a Darn That Alarm. So Turn Back the Alarm is such a great name. And she was just walking toward the camera with the rider up, and they were reflected in a puddle. And Ray Pollock loved it, and he ran it in the Blood Horse, and told me to enter it for the Eclipse Awards, which I thought was a pretty silly idea. And it won, and that was amazing. And I'm not really a contest enterer. They make me uncomfortable. I don't like other people telling you your work's really not that good. Like, you'd rather
yeah, you just don't want to hear it.
Yeah, like I'd rather have people not go like, oh, you entered and you lost. That's sad. So, but yeah, so I was pretty grateful for that push to do that. And then I didn't enter too many other years for a while, and now I almost always enter, just because, I don't know.
You have so many great photos. You're out there all the time. You get shots that others don't even have, or don't sometimes have the opportunity to, because you're there day in, day out, all day long sometimes. And we get to 2001. It was funny when I was looking up 2001, what kept coming up the most was that you got the award stolen that year, the statuette, right? I was like trying to look up all like the stuff about the award you won, and what just keeps coming up all over is that the award gets stolen from you.
You do your homework too, because that was insane. Did you read the whole story?
Yeah, they came back to you too, right? It was like an investigation. You had to go through all of these channels.
Yeah, it was some lady that they didn't used to check your ticket, and you could just go into the Eclipse Awards. And she sat down next to me, and she had, I don't remember black outfit, but she had a red feather boa. And she talked to me all night. And she gave me your business card, and then she reached underneath the table where we were hiding the Eclipse Award because I'd gone off to congratulate a few people. And she walked out with it, and security tried to stop her, and she said, "I'm a friend of Barbara's, and I'm taking this award to her." And she left with it, but she'd left her business card on the table, which is really weird.
I know. Not a great criminal, right? Like, yeah.
She is not a great criminal. And then when the police finally visited her, she said, "I have no idea what you're talking about." And then she said, "But do you think Barbara would prosecute?" so the next day, super weirdly, because she was in Miami, the next day, a Corona box of beer, empty, shows up at the Blood Horse office with the Eclipse Award in it in Lexington. And there was a $20 bill, and it said, "Please give this to Barbara Livingston." And a man handed it over and left. And I never got the 20. I never got the 20 back.
You're still owed. You're still owed.
It's
Then we get about a decade later, and this is one of my personal favorites of yours. Tapiture working in the rainstorm, prepping for the Kentucky Derby at Churchill Downs. What do you remember about that shot? Just the chaos of the Derby week, right? And the Oaks week and everything going on. And that shot is like so calming and like soothing with like everything crazy going on. One of my personal favorites. What do you remember about that Tapiture shot?
Oh my gosh, you're so funny. Because I remember it started raining. It was right before daylight. So you actually had the backlit lights, which helped make the rain show. It also made it tougher for the camera to autofocus because it wanted to find the raindrops, and you had to go like, no, do the saddlecloth. Like you had to tell your camera to not overthink itself. But it had a lightning storm had come in. So it was actually the beginning of a storm. And the rider was great, Abel Flores, because he is a little bit nutty. And he said that was one of the most fun things he ever rode. And I believe that after that horse worked, or maybe one or two more, they gave it a break until the rain subsided. Yeah, and it was tumultuous times for some people who then said, that reminds me that you just keep going. Like no matter how crappy things are and how you're like, oh my God, you just keep going and you're going to get through it. And so that was a fun one for me, and it was an artistic one, and I like that.
And
so thank you.
Not only have you won the 4 individual as a photographer, you have a couple more in 2016, 2017, audio multimedia with DRF. 2016, you do Time Bandits, where you get to focus on Alex Solis, Mike Smith, and Gary Stevens. How crazy is it that as you're doing that feature, you're talking about their longevity, and Mike Smith just won a grade 1 last weekend as you and I talk in September 2025.
Isn't that amazing? I know. And I looked, I think it said he was 60 years old. I think the headline said.
Yeah.
So he's still a baby. But that being said, I first photographed him in 1990, and that's when he came in and rode 36 Red in the wood, and then went on to the Derby. I think that was his first grade 1 win. And you think about that, that doesn't really seem like, it doesn't seem that long ago. And I don't know why Mike's a little bit older looking, but I clearly am not. But don't worry, Mike looks pretty amazing. We should all be lucky to look like that and to be performing at that level. He's incredible. I don't have words for how great somebody like that is.
And then you go, the first of those features is about the humans. The second in 2017, one of your all-time favorites, I think your all-time favorite, right? Man of War, who you get to focus on there. So not only did you win awards for some of the photographs on your own, but as part of the team with these features that you put together. Yeah. What do you remember about that?
Yeah, and I definitely was more put it together with the Man of War one. I pretty much put all of that together, but although people helped with things like the video aspect. But that was something I'd been looking forward to doing for 10 years, like ever since you really thought about the fact that Man of War's 100th birthday anniversary was coming up. And that at that point, I'm like, okay, I want to do everything, because I've been chasing Man of War's, I call it chasing Man of War's ghost. I've been chasing things about Man of War. Like, for instance, my college professor, the photographs of Man of War's grave. So over 40 years, I've been photographing man o' war related things, like the different farms he stood at, farms where he was. I tried to get into Havre de Grace, but it's private property. And but other tracks where I tried to find where his Belmont barn was, judging from photos. Like John Sheriff's has a great photo of him walking at Belmont, and we can get the area, but we haven't figured out the barn. Glen Riddle Farm in Maryland. So just chasing man o' war around where we could find any sort of hint of him, where I could find any sort of hint of him, has always been something I love doing. And putting it all together was a remarkably satisfying feeling. I felt good about that one, that I actually, yeah, that was a lot of work involved.
Then 2018 over at Parks, the horse where she told me to go, attempting to savage Firenze Fire. That one is a great shot. And those types of like action shots, right? Like you can't replicate that. You can set it up as best as you can and probably not even get a shot like that. It's a little bit of luck and everything coming together, right?
Yeah, and that's what the Eclipse Award, a lot of that is just if you happen to be at the right moment at the right time and you know how to use your camera equipment, like you don't mess it up. That was one where I decided to stand way to the left of the wire because I was tired of shooting the same shot. It was one of those many stakes days. And by stakes race 3 or 4, I'm like, let's do something a little different. So I went down the track farther and I got down low to get rid of the background and then I saw what was happening. And obviously I was shooting it because they're about to go by. And I just sort of kept shooting it and wondering if it could possibly look as weird as it looked through the camera lens. And, the next year, of course, Firenze Fire got revenge. He ended up doing it to another horse. So he ended up stopped being the one that was attacked and instead he was the attacker.
A little bit of payback there.
Yeah, I couldn't believe it when it was Firenze Fire the next year too. I'm like, what?
So you kind of got into this a little bit. When you're out at the track, right now you're working for DRF. There are some times where they'll send you, hey, here are some stories we're going to be working on. Can you get some photos of this? And other times you're out there and you kind of just catch horses that could be future stories too, right? It's kind of like a symbiotic relationship in that sense.
Yeah, absolutely. And I love when they're doing features or stories about a race coming up that we know who they're targeting. Like today, for instance, I looked online to see who is racing in the next 3 days, not tomorrow or the next day, because you're already going to press DRF, but the next few days after that. And I looked to see like the top level allowance or the stakes and see, do I have any shots of that horse, workouts, anything? And if so, I just think I just send in a boatload of them, the most I can find. It helps that these horses often work at Saratoga for quite a long time, like Sovereignty last year.
Yeah.
So those horses, I'm lucky enough to be able to find because they don't just usually ship in for 3 days and leave. Some do, but most of them are often here for the whole season. Some are still here right now. So I'm lucky enough to have a playground where a lot of these great horses stay for a long time, and that helps me get a lot more shots than I otherwise would.
So you've been to all of the big tracks, Derby, Preakness, Belmont, Breeders' Cup. You're taking pictures at all of those venues. What is your favorite, or maybe some of your favorite tracks to shoot at? And then we'll ask the opposite. What are some of the more difficult tracks maybe to get a good shot or for you? So let's start with the good ones. Like what
start with the nice ones.
The nice ones, right? What are ones where you got great shots, great lighting? What are some of your favorites to be taking pictures at?
And where people really treat you like they're happy to have media visit,
sure,
which
yeah.
is not always the case.
Yeah.
Not everybody is thrilled to have us there. My favorite track ever is Hialeah, and it's still remarkably beautiful. It still has a few hundred flamingos. It still has the citation statue. It still has the flamingo fountain that has winners of the flamingo around it, written around it. So Hialeah will always just be my favorite. I don't know. It just is. And I did shoot there back when they had thoroughbred racing. Then I photographed there during the quarter horse racing, and unfortunately there's no racing. And somebody that calls himself the commish could always just lease the place and
right?
Just race it for a couple of years. If you go to have fun somewhere, right? If you go to the opera, you're spending money, but you're supposedly just having fun. So it's money well spent. Hialeah would be the same for someone.
Visually, it's amazing. That was Let It Ride, right? The movie, I think, at there. So we get to see it a lot if you want to watch back and see Richard Dreyfuss there having his great day.
Or the Champ. The Champ is also a little cheesier, but no, they're both pretty cheesy.
Yeah, very
the
much.
Champ has all sorts of nice, wonderful stuff with the backstretch there. Yeah.
Okay, so let's go the opposite way. What are some of the tracks that are a little more difficult for you to get the shots that you want?
Boy, that's a good question. Well, I'm limited in some places. Some, like they've changed some rules where
Yep.
only particular people can shoot on the final turn, that kind of thing. Like things that are difficult for us. And I'm not sure where those rules come from, like what the reasoning would be behind them. So we just work with what we're given in those regards. But like, I'm super happy to go to a track where they're really happy to see you, like Finger Lakes or Remington, or I go to Fauner, but it's only during the off season. But they're really nice there anyway.
And that was something that I always loved too, making the trips when I was working at TVG. Like you'd go to some of the smaller tracks sometimes, but they are so happy to see you. They are so excited you're there. Delta Downs, Emerald Downs. I went there a few times and they're like rolling out the red carpet, and it makes you feel very like appreciate. You know, you appreciate that they that they are so excited for the coverage that you're going to.
Yeah, that they're happy for the coverage because, as I say, we do it for free. I don't even ask for water. Like I'm just trying to promote these remarkable things at the track, and so it really does feel good. When I haven't been to Emerald for a long time. Good for you. That's a great track too.
Background, right, with Mount Rainier. Oh, on a clear day, it's one of the absolute best.
Yes.
So are there any tracks that are on the bucket list for you? Is there anyone that you haven't been to yet?
Well, I sort of want to go to all of them, but I'm not like a lot of people where they're super ambitious and do it because I'm so busy
always working.
Doing the stuff I have to do. Like I saw Arapahoe Park will be racing when I'm driving back through to California again, but then it's quarter horses, and the Remington has their Oklahoma Classics night, so I think I'll do that again because they're just great. But yeah, so you sort of look at, one of my favorite things is looking for the top stallions in states that have like 3 stallions. Like, I went to Alabama and did Doc and Bubba G.
Awesome.
Like horses like that, where you look and you go like, okay, yeah, he won a couple of races. His owner's the only one who's had foals by him, and he's produced a couple of stakes winners, and he's pretty cool, and he lives in the owner's backyard. And things like that to me are so much fun because nobody else, that's not true, but few people are recording that. And when I die, my stuff goes on to Keeneland Library, which they could throw in a dumpster, but if they keep it, they're going to see these horses, and they will have records of these horses as stallions, and that's really fun for me.
That history is something I want to talk with you a little bit more about in just a few moments. But how difficult can it be for you, for equine photographers, trying to get a perfect shot of these animals that are fast moving? They're unpredictable. It's a constantly moving target. You don't get to say, hey, can you do me a favor? Just stand right there for a second, right? You can't tell them what to do. Some days, is it just difficult trying to get the shot that you want? Because what you're doing is very different and very unique.
Yeah, I mean, certain things are easy. Like, the horse is very likely to be going by the finish line in a certain place between the 1 and the 5 path. Like we set up remote cameras on the infield, inside at the finish line, those things that look like head-on shots. And you have to sort of look ahead of time and go, our horse is on the inside today or the outside, because you want to aim the cameras in the correct direction. And that becomes difficult. But if they work out and they're right up the rail, it can be beautiful. So, you sort of know they're probably going to do this or that, but you don't know that Ired Ortiz is going to hop back on White Barrio. Right. You don't know that's going to happen literally during
2 jockeys on 1 horse.
And so, we got nice shots from the outside, which is nice shots. It's Ired, he's okay, so I could say it, falling off. But then one of the DRF photographers, a partner, Deb Roma, she shot from the inside, and it's literally him on the 2 horses. And the one guy's Edgard Zayas is hanging off the side, and Ired's like, hey, I'm on the back. And that's a really amazing image, but it's just, she's an amazing shooter and she pays attention. But that being said, you also have to be right place, right time. And you have to have that luck again. Ired's okay.
Yeah.
So we didn't do it
2 days later. I cannot believe that.
That's true. We didn't do anything with Deb's picture because they were so weird until we at least heard that he would be okay. And just wanted, because it was so weird, we didn't need people going, what the?
Yeah.
But we did put the other ones out there of him falling off because that happened noticeably to everybody. Yeah.
And for those who haven't seen that, it's on some of the DRF social medias. You can see even Ired holding up, I think Zayas too. He's trying to pick him up with one hand. There's so much going on in just one photo.
And how about White Barrio just going, I guess this is my life now, right? And
I got an extra 120 on me right now, right? Or whatever.
pretty incredible.
And you've kind of mentioned it's like constantly evolving throughout the day for you, right? You're looking for different angles. You're looking to get maybe
Yes.
something different than you got earlier in the day, slight
Yes.
adjustments here and there. It's not just, oh, here's where I'm going to stand all throughout the day and get these pictures.
Yes.
And when you're at certain tracks, do you go in with like your rundown and a plan, or is it just kind of adjusting throughout the day?
I definitely have a plan depending on the distance of the races and the quality of the horses in the races. I'll do things more scenic if I'm able to get away with it. Like if it's a claiming horse, I still want to photograph them and I want to photograph them well, but I don't mind taking more risks with that. For DRF, we obviously need the race finish because we need the winner. So if you go to the head of the stretch to shoot one, you better have Deb Roma with you or somebody with you, or you're going to not get the winner, and that would be bad. So, so yeah, like if it's a long distance race, I might go to the first turn for one, or go up to the roof, or just something to make the most of the time at the track with the situation, including the weather. If it's here, we're going to do different things because of the lighting. So we adjust according to that too.
And I mean, this is technology. You're depending on technology. Have there been times where you have everything set up, something goes off, something goes wrong, and you don't get the shot that you're wanting or you're hoping for?
Yes. Or like that could certainly happen. We had one shooter at the Belmont a couple of years ago and the camera simply froze. You know, who needs Arcangelo winning the Belmont? Right. But anyway, so, and that was just equipment failure. Absolutely nothing you could do. And so you just sort of take it for granted that might happen in you test right ahead of time. But yeah, you're definitely just depending on you have to know something about your cameras, but you're just hoping that you get lucky. Another silly thing, if you get really risky and you decide to shoot with a really long lens, which makes it more dramatic, but they get tight really close, they get close really fast. If you're watching that horse come down the stretch through that long lens, you can miss a horse on the outside. Like Dancing in Silks, I don't even have him in my win photos from that Breeders' Cup. He's not in any. I have 2 or 3 across, and I would look. I'm like, I don't have that horse with those silks. Who is that?
Way to the outside, like right in your frame, like right up in your face.
Yeah. By the time you see him, my first Derby that I shot was 1991, and that was Strike the Gold. And I wore a Strike the Gold shirt, and I had a Strike the Gold button that said "To hell with dosage," because dosage was a big thing then. How horses can't win if they don't have the correct pedigree stuff. So, and then I have all these pictures of Best Pal winning the Kentucky Derby, and then I have the nose of Strike the Gold in my frame, and then you can see I go like, ooh, but he's out of focus by then. And back then you didn't have autofocus cameras, so he's way out of focus. You didn't have the TV on the infield. Yeah. So you just had the roar of the crowd, and they also weren't watching a TV on the infield. So they weren't making the roar that they would make nowadays. And I listen to that a lot, those roars.
And you are very much like, you have to have the mental capacity like a rider or like someone going race in, race out, right? Because if you're set up for a shot, you don't get the shot you want, you're disappointed. You got 8 or 9 more races to come up, right? Like you can't really let that sit with you too much or it'll impact the next couple races.
Yeah, that's actually true. And you just forget what happened before. Like it gets to be enough that we'll say, who won the Met Mile 3 races ago? And we can't even remember.
Yeah.
Yeah, because you absolutely have to get through but I do get mad if I missed a shot that I could have gotten. But if I miss a shot that I couldn't, like if it happened at the head of the stretch and I was at the wire, I got to let that go because it's a big track. It's a mile and 1/8. It's 5/8 of a mile. You're going to Charlestown, whatever. So you can only be where you can be. So I have peace at things I don't capture that I couldn't have captured. But if I could, then I would be mad.
And you kind of mentioned it a few times too. We're very lucky at DRF that we have an awesome team. And some of the folks that you've mentioned, and Deb and Susie through the years, and Justin, who have been around. And so you don't necessarily have to be everywhere getting every single shot when you have other great teammates that you can depend on there.
Yeah, it makes a world of difference when we have a good crew. And all the people that work with me are a good crew. Like we make sure it's people that we all get along well, that we understand each other. And we're all working for DRF. We're working for that purpose. We might be putting things in portfolios separately, like Justin Lane, who's great, but he doesn't do horse racing very often. But he knows what he's shooting for is DRF, and he wants to do the best. And he shoots on the roof for a lot of our big races. And love to trade off with him, but I have a feeling that if I did, first, I couldn't edit people's work in between races. And I think that I would just sort of go like, I wish I was down there.
You get stir crazy up there, right? Like you'd want to be closer to the
I
action.
think so.
Yeah.
I think I would. And I'm totally grateful to Deb because she shoots even the minor stakes races with me at Saratoga. And I'll say, Deb, I'm going to do something different. Or she'll say, I'll go to the backstretch. I'm like, go, let's do it. Let's do something different. Yeah, that's fun. Having a good team and the writers, I couldn't ask for more. I couldn't ask for more. It's remarkable. Really proud.
We talked a little bit about Man of War. He's on the tip top of your all-time favorites, right? Who are some of the favorites that you've had to shoot through the years? You've kind of looked at him, but how about some of the horses that you've had the experience actually taking shots of in person?
Yeah, he's my favorite as far as a true great horse, and then Alidar, because I'm a glutton for punishment.
Yeah.
So there's Alidar too. My favorite racehorse of all weird ones is a horse named Sip 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 by Sunrise Flight, born in 1971, I think, or 69. And I cut out a clipping from the New York Times when I was 10 years old. It was him winning the first race at Aqueduct, just some random day, December 1971. And I put that on my wall because Sip 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 was such a great name. And then he came and raced at Saratoga a few times, and I saw him, and I photographed him with an Instamatic terribly, but I was like, Sip, 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 great name still, right? And then in 1977, I knew I was going to Belmont for the Belmont Stakes. A friend was driving us down. And so I rode to Belmont and said, can I meet Sip, Sip, Sip? And back then it was the Pinkertons, right? So it was Jerome O'Grady, and the Pinkertons wrote back a really polite typewritten letter, as people did back then, and said, we are so happy you're coming to Belmont Park to enjoy the Belmont Stakes. Sid Waters has graciously agreed for you to meet the horse. The horse raced recently, but unfortunately the result was not the best. He finished fourth. If you would like to see Mr. Waters and see the horse, and I was so excited, more excited about that than for watching Seattle Slew win the Belmont, which I shot with an Instamatic. But meeting Sip, Sip, Sip and learning he also only used one eye, like predominantly one-eyed vision. And coincidentally, it happened to have been right after his final race. And he had a lot of starts, I don't know, 70 or something. And I was told he went off and became a pensioner and lived a long life. And I hope that's true. By the time I was looking for him, he was not here anymore. But Sip, 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 because it was a great name. And I was 10 years old with a picture on my wall. And it was that simple. And then the kindness of those Pinkertons, the New York security letting me in, was on Belmont Day. Imagine that. They don't have enough to deal with. They got a freaking 16-year-old girl asking to
come in and sip.
Can I please pet that claiming horse? Thank you.
What are some of the races, maybe exciting races, that stick out to you through the years that you've able to shoot? I mean, you've seen so many Triple Crown, Breeders' Cup. Are there any that close finishes or something happened during the race? We were just talking about one with Irad, right? That one's like going to be memorable where you see Irad on two different horses in that one. But you've seen some crazy
like,
things.
What is that? Yeah. There were a lot that were amazing. And starting, way back in the 70s, like I watched Secretariat Lose to Onion. And that was fascinating because I didn't know Alan Jerkins yet, but I read a lot of things about him at the time. And I was like, that man's interesting. And I believe there was a headline about him in Sports Illustrated soon thereafter, maybe after Prove Out, and it said, this man is dangerous. And I thought that was so cool. But it was about how amazing he is, not like dangerous in a bad way, but in a watch what horses you enter way. So for him, and then Ruffian, obviously, the spin-away was incredible. Affirmed in Alidar's Belmont, I hate to say it, but it was a heck of a race.
Yeah.
And then the one that I think means the most to the career was American Pharoah's Belmont. Yeah. Because it was a Triple Crown, and that's what we'd all been waiting to see, was a Triple Crown. And Bob Baffert was very gracious with the horse. The morning afterward, all the people were around looking at him, and one of the reporters or someone said, do you mind if I pet him? And Bob said, no, that would be okay. And pretty soon, as you know, there were like 100 people sticking their hands on the newly minted Triple Crown winner. And that's not something you see every day. Like Kenny McPeak repeated something similar here with Torpedo Anna last week, where he allowed people to come to his barn and pet her and just see her up close. Think of that. That's so cool.
That experience, right? You remember that 10 years later, and you'll never forget that. And all of
I will always remember that. Yes.
As horse racing fans, I got the experience with American Pharoah as well. They let me walk right up, pet him in his stall, same thing. And I hadn't had that kind of access almost ever with horses that were like that too. So I will always remember that. How about
I
people?
love that you did.
How about
I love
people?
that.
You get to shoot a lot of people, jockeys, riders at the track. Are there any people that you've, really had fun shooting through the years, seeing them,
Well,
grow up?
some are more playful than others,
Yeah.
right? And they're obviously fun because they're playful and easy to torment. Others are quiet, but they're really smart and would be playful if they weren't trying to be really cool. But I can't think of any. I don't enjoy pestering. Like Mark
Yeah.
Cassie's hilarious, and Todd Pletcher is very accommodating. Bob Baffert's extremely accommodating. Bill Mott, he's busy working, so I try to leave him alone a little bit, but it's sure fun to stalk him anyway. But yeah, there are a lot of people. And then the riders, I read Ortiz will give you anything that you want photographically. Like if you said, I really want to photograph you at noon on a dark day, I think that he would say yes. I haven't done that to him. But,
You
but
might
the
just
jockey,
test him just to see.
yeah, just for fun, just for kicks. But yeah, a lot of the riders are very, and even the hot walkers and the grooms, you get to know quite a few of them, especially when you have a stable like the Pletcher stable, because you're going to have the same people over and over leading their top horses over, and you get to know quite a bit about some of them, and it's wonderful. Like I generally stay hands off completely. Like I don't go up and ever pet a horse. That's why American Pharoah, like for you, where that was such an amazing experience. But when you watch them enough, you feel like you get to know them, and that's pretty great. That's pretty great. And I love learning the new ones. I love learning, a horse, a 2-year-old filly of Finger Lakes who's hopping around coming down to the race and then wins by 3, and her connections are so proud. It's great.
You seem to have almost a sixth sense for like anticipating the shot or where to be, what to do. Is there anything about that, or do you think that just something that comes with years and years of time and experience? Because you're almost like you said, a soothsayer. Sometimes you can see the things happening, or maybe you're in the perfect spot. Is there anything to that?
The only thing I think that gives me an advantage, and it's a weird thing, is, well, it's my eyes again. First, I see in 2 dimensions, so I see the way a photograph would look. Like I don't have 3D vision at all. So I just see, like if you took a still frame and looked at it, that's the way that I see the world. Second, without that camera raised, with that little diopter on it, I can't really see what's in front of me. Like I can't see a horse that's 50 yards away. I might be able to guess it's white or barrio, but like generally you're not gonna be able to tell. So I keep my camera up. So often it's sort of strange. And sometimes a photographer will start shooting next to me and they're like, what are you doing? Like, I'm just watching.
I'm just
So
looking.
I stay like that a lot, which will no doubt have arthritic ramifications in the long run. But since I have the camera up so often, it just happens that I get shots sometimes that happen without warning, like that are shocking.
You have so many photos and so much great information in your mind that you wanted to share with us, that you've written how many books now? 8, 9, and we've got the re-editions of them coming up. Like how many books are you an author of so far?
I don't know the answer to that. It's around 10.
Yeah.
I think there were 9 by legitimate outlets, like DRF Press, for instance. And then I've done a couple on my own that are stories that I've found. Like I bought a negative collection from 1916 to 23, negatives of New York racing. And the Man of War was in them, about 900 different images. But there were horses that I'd never heard of, and I found them fascinating. So I started researching Weldship and found out that he won every major jump race at Saratoga around 1920. And then he ended up in a 200 or 300 mile endurance race from Washington, D.C. to Red Bank, I think it was. And he was the U.S. thoroughbred representative, like that kind. And then he ended up being a hunter for somebody forever because he became lame 200 miles into the endurance race. That's right, he didn't finish it. He only made it 200 miles.
Only 200 miles.
So then that got me. Once I started reading about them, I'm like, well, I want to write some of their stories. So then I just have those printed with blurb.com, which is a lovely site. They do a great job, and I make 10 copies of each, to give to Keeneland Library, to give to the National Museum of Racing, and then to give away for fundraisers. So
one that I really wanted to talk with you about was your Old Friend series that you started, because it's so great. And it's something that you get an opportunity to visit really with your old friends, right? The horses that you met at the track years ago that were there with you for a few years, but then most of their life is off the track and they go to the farms and they're doing a second job afterwards. I was reading, so you have this book come out, Visit with My Favorite Thoroughbreds. Was the farm actually named after your book?
Yeah, so I got a phone call or an email, but I remember it as a phone call from some guy I'd never heard of, but he was so enthusiastic. And he's like, "Hey, I'm Michael Blow, and and he was in Boston at the time. And he said, "I'm thinking of starting this farm, and do you mind if I borrow the name of your book?" And so I was like, I checked with Blood Horse first. And also Tom Hall was an editor there and a good friend of mine. And he had come up with the name, Old Friends, for the book. So I checked with them. They said, "We don't care." And I said, "Who cares? No one's ever going to know that farm. They're only going to know these amazing books." So I said, "Sure, Michael, there, go ahead, name your farm Old Friends." That worked out well. No one knows that I have books called Old Friends. Or if they do, they think that they're all based on Michael's horses. But hey, that's a good problem.
Yeah, but it was the other way, and you still are part of that yearly magazine that raises attention for them, that helps.
Yeah.
And I've read Our Mims. Is that one of your favorite places to visit too, a retirement home in Kentucky?
Yeah, you really do your research. And Our Mims is amazing, started by Jean Mirabito in Paris. And she had Our Mims that she got when Our Mims was no longer useful to anyone, and kept her for a few years. And then I found her sister, half sister, Sugar and Spice, who was not in great shape. She was an acorn winner, but she was not in great shape. She was in bad shape. She had a broken knee that hadn't been fixed. She was underweight in a field of mares that were younger, so they could keep her away from the food. And I called Jeannie and I said, "I hate to say this, but could you possibly make room in your heart for one more horse?" And she did, and that's when she started. She decided to start Our Mims Retirement Haven because of that mare. And yeah, every aspect of that was good. Sugar and Spice didn't live all too long, but she managed to get weight back. She got rid of the rain rot. Her knee got massages all the time. She got poulticed, and she died with an apple in her mouth. And Jeannie made sure that she could go back to Calumet Farm to be buried next to her 4 generations of family. So yeah,
that's how it should be for these horses, that they get the happy ending that they very much deserve, because they make so many people happy at their time out on the track, and with their big successes, that sometimes we forget about them when they get off the track. And you've done an amazing job through your books, and then even getting into the Jim Rafferty collection following this. Like, one thing that seems really important to you is racing history, preserving that. You've acquired artifacts, memorabilia, photos, negatives. Like, where did that interest come from? And is it just like a respect for the sport and the thoroughbreds? Because it seems so important to you to make sure that these images get a chance to live on.
Yeah, the fun part about that is I used to joke with my friend Tom Hall at the Blood Horse Gent. I say only about a half dozen of us care at all about this stuff, but we care a lot.
So much.
We care so much. So it just became important to me. Like, think of the people in racing nowadays. I want people to know that they existed like 30, 40 years from now, and to even be able to picture what they looked like. So I got to learn about, Hall of Famers like Burley Park. Like, I got to learn these people through the Raftery images, but I also got to learn about people that I hadn't known. I didn't know the name Stan Reiser, but he had cats in his barn office. And how neat is that? I just think that's really remarkable. There was one gentleman that had, I can't remember his name offhand, but he had a goat name, and her name was Pearly May. And Pearly May took care of all of his horses, stayed with all of them. And when she there are all these pictures of her with different stakes horses he had. And then when she died, he buried her. And it's him crying at the grave of his goat, Pearly May, at Gulfstream Park. So the whole thing of Pearly May becomes amazing to me, because I would go to newspapers.com and learn the story, and the story with the photos combined. Story with photos does something that a story alone can't do and a photo alone can't do. Like, people often forget that picture, is 1,000 words thing. That's true, but the 1,000 additional words really help. So I fell in love with Pearly May, and I tried to find the grave site based on the picture. And then they told me that part had been bulldozed and changed when they changed the track configuration. So I won't be able to find Pearly May's grave. But that suddenly seemed really important.
Right? That's what's it's so impressive about our history in horse racing. And one thing that I was actually impressed by was the labor of love for you to get this collection, right? It was not like very easy. Take us through that process a little bit. I think you had to drive back and forth. You had a couple people helping you with the team. And how many negatives overall were you getting from that Raftery collection?
The Raftery collection, I've collected quite a few other ones, but that was definitely the one. He was the most prolific racing photographer in the country. He had 6 tracks for a very long time, and then other tracks for short periods of time, like Pimlico. But the family his daughter wanted to have this work be seen again, and she wanted to have the family name be remembered. And so that became important to her. And I just kept reaching out to them like, hey, ready to let that go? Ready to let it go? And they finally agreed. And I ended up, it was a large U-Haul. It's the biggest truck I ever drove, the biggest one you could get without a truck or truck license. And it ended up being then 2 SUVs and my Honda Civic all together. So it was from Miami up to Saratoga. And then I got a storage facility because the guess is it was between 2 and 3 million negatives, which doesn't mean 2 or 3 million individual things. But like by the time he was shooting Spectacular Bid at Monmouth, and he would shoot 50 negatives with his staff, he and his staff. So that's how you get that huge number. Like back in the old days, it would be click, 1 frame of the finish line, click, 1 frame of the winner's circle. And then all of a sudden by the 80s, you're getting 50 photos of each race. So yeah, it was stunning. Like the earliest I found was some, like the amateur ones that were his, and it was from the Seabiscuit War Admiral. Right? And they're terrible. They're really bad. But he had been a jockey for a short while, and then he decided he found a camera at somebody had left it behind. He worked at a shop there at Hialeah at the track, and he took it to Lost and Found, and they said, nobody took the camera. Do you want it? And that's how he got started, which is unbelievable. And how many years later, I'm driving his stuff. I was terrified. I didn't want to stop anywhere because I thought about the lifetime work behind me in that U-Haul.
All the years.
It was weird. And we had it bungee corded in, but then I learned it wasn't bungee corded in very well. There was about 300 boxes, and it wasn't always really pretty. But they all are preserved. They went on to Keeneland. I still have some of the cream of the crop, but 95% are already at Keeneland, and the rest will be because they can do a better job than I can. And who knows? Maybe somebody wants to know about Joe Bolero's goat, Pearly May.
Now they can, and now they can. And a few of your other works, Horses in Living Color, Barbara D. Livingston, Saratoga, and then you took the pictures on a book, How to Exercise a Thoroughbred Racehorse, and you did some of the photography for there. Anything about those works that you remember or that stand out to you?
No, I barely remember the last one, but yeah, I used to be like partly associated with quite a few projects, not so much anymore. Horses in Living Color was all different breeds, and the fun part about that was that they have brindle horses, half thoroughbred, brindle quarter horses. So they got the little stripes like the greyhound dogs do, and they're all different weird color tones and patches and things. I tried to put a lot of thoroughbreds in there, but it was just fun to go around the country, and I found horses, internet searches. Does anybody know colorful horses? I did go to Canada, but I didn't go anywhere else. So it was United States and Canada to find all the colorful horses I could in a year or two, and that was a blast. You didn't learn anything reading it, but it was just really pretty pictures.
Now, when you're out the track, do you bet the races at all?
Deb Roma makes me sometimes. We don't always win. We bet the Derby last year, and luckily my boyfriend is Dan Hendricks, the horse trainer, so we bet Mystic Dan.
Nice. There we go.
Mystic Dan. And we made, I forget what we made, but we made a huge amount on that one, like 800 or something.
Awesome.
But we don't usually do that well. We sometimes make, $25. We're pretty excited about it. So yeah.
So for you through the years, how has the camera technology changed for you and for your profession, going from film to digital, more powerful lenses, right? Yeah. But then on the flip side, there's some negatives to it as well, right? But being on the internet, easier to be stolen and to be, taken from you. What have you seen, through the years in the change to the digital age?
It is an interesting thing because generally things are good. Autofocus helps you tremendously. Auto exposure, which I use maybe 50% of the time, in a general scene, because you don't know if you're going to be aiming toward the sun and suddenly have to aim the other direction, and your camera will theoretically figure it out. And digital gives you enough allowance that it actually will make up for things you might do stupidly. But it also, photography has been devalued by that, because by the time I post a picture of America Pharoah winning the Belmont, there are going to be 300 camera phone pictures of it online, and it's a saturation point. And people nowadays are like, I get it, it's a horse photo. Yeah. And it's been a tough thing to get adjusted to the fact that in a way these pictures, they don't matter like they used to. Mm-hmm. But what am I going to do? it's too late for me I don't want to work at Burger King again. I did that in the 80s. So I just keep chugging along, and I'm still grateful that DRF has things that I can still be motivated to shoot and to shoot well and try to get, something unique of them. It's still never ending fun.
What you were kind of hitting on is interesting though, because if you were starting today, things would be so different for you than when you started with digital, with AI now coming into place, with things like that, right? You being a photographer, 30, 40 years ago, it's a different set of skills than it is even today.
Yeah, but if you're a good photo editor or you're just really quick at putting stuff online, you're going to be the one that gets all the likes. And the funny thing about that is some of the pictures I post are ones that I know are going to get 10 likes, and I don't care. It's just like where I know that if I post one of Zenyatta or one of, whoever, Sovereignty right now, I know that they are going to get much more interaction. But there's so many pictures of them out there that sometimes it's fun to just not ignore that. I do my job and I want to do my job, and I'm amazed by these horses, but it's fun to try to do something different than everybody else is doing.
Try to shine a light sometimes on the spaces that aren't getting that light, right? In some of those horses.
Yes. When you think about like the Saratoga barns, how many barns there are there, and we definitely spend a large percentage of time at various barns. You have to. These are the best horses in training, and you want to represent it, and there are going to be articles about them. But it sure is fun to go by those smaller barns and just say, hey, I'm a huge fan of that horse, which is true. It's so easy to be fans of all of them. And people's eyes glow, and they are thrilled when you put a picture of that horse online. And that's still, I'll never get tired of that, I don't think. I'll never get tired of that.
You're kind of getting at this topic, but I was going to ask, do you generally know when you take a shot that is going to get a lot of attention? Like, could you feel that that's a big one? And then on the flip side, are there shots that you take that you don't think are going to get that kind of attention, and all of a sudden they blow up and everybody loves them?
Yes. Every so often there are ones where I cannot understand, and I still don't. And my friends will go like, Barbara, no, look at the way the horse is doing whatever. I'm like, right. There was a horse named Associate, and he jumped over an outside fence, and he is having a good life, but he dumped his rider and like jumped over sideways, sort of like, I guess it was like the Heisman Trophy is what people associated with. I look at it and it's a horse jumping over the rail, and people are like, how did he twist his body? I'm like, I don't know. But so people see different things in them. But it's really fun to see people's reactions. Like generally, I really enjoy seeing people commenting, or even if they're suggesting new things. I love that too. It's a big world. Our racing world is a big world.
If you weren't a photographer, what do you think you would be doing for a living?
I'd still be at Burger King. Yeah. I was Employee of the Month once.
Whoppers are good. Give me the fries. They're always changing the menu. Absolutely.
Oh my God. I don't know, because all of my skills are ones that are not marketable. Like when young people want to be photographers now, I suggest they get a degree in something else.
Yeah.
And shoot photography because they love it. Like, not that they possibly think they can make a living at it. So yeah, I love to write stories. I love to paint things. Like, you know what doesn't make money? Any of those things. So as smart as my dad, the scientist, was, he didn't instill any of that in me. I was like, whatever. So I don't know. Don't know.
But those are Seriously. Good hobbies, at least, right? So if you're not at the
they're great hobbies.
If you're not at the track.
Maybe I would work at the track. Maybe I would actually I was a groom for a while, but I was way too lazy to get up that early every day. So I could do something like that.
Like the little gaps that you may have where you're not working and covering the races. You mentioned Dan, you're hanging out with him, or what kind of things are you doing when you get a little bit of free time?
I don't get much. Like right now I'm talking to you.
I know, right? We're making you work on your free time here.
Yeah, this is my day. My spirit of it's 75 degrees. Yeah, I mean, I'm very likely to try to find things to do that are related to my work. I'm looking for the leading stallion in Georgia for when I drive down past there. Making arrangements to go to parks or whatever. Or pestering horse farm friends. Like I got buddies at Rock Ridge and they've got stallions just standing around that I could photograph. So I'm not good with downtime. I'm either scanning negatives. I have my negative scanner right here to scan rafteries late at night, or other photographers whose work I've acquired, because to me that brings them back to life. It's like having little butterflies, and like they come from the cocoon, and then you scan the negative, and then you got these beautiful butterflies. So a lot of times late at night, I'll just be scanning things, or going out on the lake. There's lake near here with a kayak, and doing that to try to remember that I should live a life like people do.
Yeah.
That, yeah, I'm only somewhat successful at that.
Same. It's like you get the day or two off, and then you're like, oh, the entries are out for the next week, right? And then, like you said,
Yes.
you start looking at the entries
Yes.
and the stakes and the upper allowance horses, and it's like,
it is fascinating.
It
You're
is.
like, oh my gosh, that's 7 furlongs, but she moved up to 7 furlongs from 5.5. What? Yeah. Yeah. So that becomes all encompassing. I was like, yeah, it becomes your life so much. Yeah. So good for you having that same problem.
Yeah, that's why we do this, what we do, right? Yeah.
Absolutely.
How about any movies, TV shows? Do you get a chance to check movies out? Any shows that you're into?
No, late night, I'll often listen to TCM while I'm scanning things.
Yeah.
Or if I'm with my friend Dan, then we are actually watching them, because I sort of lay a little bit more low like that. I like to take more time off. But I generally listen to TCM or Alfred Hitchcock Presents, or again, these are old things. They're sort of historical. They're sort of going along with the Raftery negatives I'm scanning, watching Alfred Hitchcock Presents from 1959. So that works.
Awesome. Any sports? If sports fans or any teams that you root for, or you just the horses?
No, I'm very mildly Red Sox. Sometimes I would wear a Red Sox hat just because it annoys people in New York, and that's funny.
Good.
So no, not so much. I like music. I like Ben Folds, like Peter Gabriel, Morrissey, those kind of people. I love that. I'll go to a Ben Folds if anybody has really good tickets to the Saratoga, and I'll buy them from you because it's sold out really fast. But that's about it. No, it's pretty much all horse racing all the time.
We know you've won many of these, I believe 6 overall, which I think second most as an individual Eclipse Award wins. After a big winning day, where would be like a celebration dinner for you, or maybe like a meal? What would be like the go-to celebration meal?
But that's so funny. When I go to the Eclipse Awards, my date would often be Jenny Young. She's a trainer in Florida, and she's a bit of a wild woman. So she would probably we might even go out to the beach, because I like going to the beach. But we'll go to some really nice place, some exotic place, like the stone crabs or something. Awesome. And just have fun. But we just get sort of stupid. And that's a really fun thing, and I don't do that often enough. I should do that much more often, because people seem to really enjoy doing that.
Okay, very serious question for you now. Man of War, Secretariat, who's the GOAT?
Oh, I don't even know if either of them is the GOAT. Okay. There's some pretty good ones from over time. Well, one of them lost 1 race, and one of them lost 5 races. One of them set more world records. I don't know. One of them won a race by 100 lengths. I don't remember. They're about equal.
And
you knew you'd get me going with that question.
I did. That was from Jody. He said I had to ask you that one back and forth. I got a couple little birdies from some of the people that know hilarious. You a little bit.
Red. Yeah, there's only one big red. But anyway, so that's for me.
As we finish up here, I know you're involved with events, fundraisers. So anything you want to plug, projects, anything at all to mention before we let you go?
No, not at this moment. Like, I'm donating to a few different things right now, and I definitely believe in that. And they're generally thoroughbred aftercare things. But yeah, I'm always big on our MIMS. There's a new place called Maine Characters, MANE Characters, who seems to be doing a phenomenal job with their horses. And I fell in love with them because they bought a farm that had an old gravestone of a standardbred named Jaybird, who was a great stallion 100 years ago, more than 100 years ago. And the stone was broken up, and they actually paid to have it repaired, made right. They put it up right. And so I became a fan right then, that they understood the history, and the first horse they took in was a descendant of Jaybird. And the fact that they take such good care of their horses, and they take in some at-risk horses, that I love that. I love almost every thoroughbred aftercare one. How can you not have fun at Old Friends and realize what they're doing is priceless? So yeah, any of those I think the world of, and am grateful to be able to help
Barbara,
when I can.
It's such a privilege for me getting to see your photos come in when I'm working on the busy days, and I see you and Deb and Justin send them in. And like, so often I'm sitting here with my girlfriend or with like my mom and dad, and I'm like, oh my gosh, look at this shot that came in. Yeah. And like, they see it because we're watching the races, and then they'll see the shot come in 20 minutes later after the race finishes. And it's incredible the talent that you and Deb and Justin have and that you share with us at DRF. So I'm very grateful that I get to see those shots day in and day out. And I want to thank you so much for giving us more than an hour of your very busy schedule. And this was such a blast for me getting to know you a little bit better.
Oh my God, what a pleasure. And thank you for all you do to make my work look good. So I appreciate that too.
Oh, it doesn't, I don't have a tough job making your stuff look good. I'll tell you that.
You're the best. I so appreciate it. Thank you for the time.
Barbara D. Livingston, folks. Thanks so much for tuning in to another episode of the Off the Track podcast. Make sure to subscribe to the podcast on Amazon, Audible, Spotify, and on YouTube. We'd always love to hear from you in the comments section. Make sure you're tuning in next week for another very special guest.